So my legal name is MJ, just MJ, no periods, no nothing. I remember when I went to go file the paperwork, the clerk was like, "You don't want any periods or anything?" And I'm like, "No, whatever." I just didn't want to redo the paperwork. I'm like, just make it MJ. And so I chose MJ because those were my birth initials. I say birth name instead of dead name. I don't personally like the term dead name because to each their own. I get why people say it, but I feel like, my name was really special. I know how special it is to name a child, so I don't want to, disrespect my parents by saying dead name because I know it meant a lot to them, so I just say my birth name. But my birth name had the initials MJ, and I thought, that'll be easier for my family to get used to, and it was easier for them. They, have adjusted to calling me MJ. Then I went to an appointment for Roman one time, and this is when I first started passing as male, and I always would tell people I'm his mom, his parent, whatever, but this person just assumed I was his father. And I wasn't going to get into a big spiel about how I'm transgender. So they go, "Oh, MJ, what does that name stand for?" And I couldn't say my birth name, and I panicked and said the most common name I could think of, which was Michael James, and that has stuck. So I've been Michael James or MJ ever since. Okay, so when did I know I was trans? That is a good question. So I actually didn't know I was trans till I was probably 16 or 17 years old. When I was a kid, I didn't even know what transgender was. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I thought that I was just messed up, and I was very angry at God and very angry at my parents. I was just extremely angry because I felt like, why would God or my parents, make me be born, into a life where I was so miserable. I was just miserable. And I'm talking, I was younger than my son when I had these emotions. I was probably about 6 years old. 5 or 6 is when I started entering therapy. And it was really rough. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just thought I was really messed up. And like I said, I was really mad at God too, as I got older and I started realizing I was transgender because, I felt like, why, if being trans is wrong, why would you make me be born like this way, like knowing I'd be in so much pain and expect me to stay this way? Like, I was livid. And it wasn't until I went to have top surgery that, or like when I went to my second consult, I literally got on the hospital floor, dirty as shit, but I got on the hospital floor and I prayed and I said, "God, please, if you accept me the way I am, if you love me how I am, and you're okay with me being my true authentic self, please let me get approved for this surgery." And boom, I was approved. That's what kind of reestablished my faith. Not to go on a rant about God. I don't care what you believe in, whatever, believe in what the hell you want. But I'm just saying, that kind of really helped me, and it helped me through the anger I felt towards him when I was a kid. But in the media, we see people that knew when they were little kids. That's not always the case. I didn't even know I didn't even know trans people existed till I was 16 or 17. I live in a small area. I'm sure I've come across trans people and didn't know it, but I had no idea until I met my first trans woman at 16 or 17, and that was revolutionary for me because it showed me that it was possible. And so yeah, that's how I knew. So this is actually a question I get a lot, and I will address it, but I'm not going to talk a lot about it, is if I live with my parents. So I live with my mom, and my dad lives right down the street. My parents are older, so it's very important to me to, be near them, and I love this home. I hope to inherit it. I hope Roman one day can inherit it. I love the farm. So yes, I do live with family. But yes, my mom is a very private person. She does not, like to be on camera a lot, and I respect that. And I try to be very careful about what I say and when I post about family members, that are not, like my husband and Roman. Even then, I'm very careful. But I try to just really respect boundaries and stuff. So yeah, I do live with my family. Family is very important to me. My dad, actually, I don't talk about this a lot, but my father back in, really, it was 10 years ago now. Yeah, it was 10 years ago. He was diagnosed with cancer, and he was pretty sick. He had to have a pretty big surgery and stuff, and he still kind of struggles since then, because with cancer, it's not just it doesn't just take a physical toll on your body, it takes a big mental toll on your body. I should say it takes a toll on you mentally. You know what I mean? So I always want to be close by my family to care for them. I would never abandon my family. Sticking with family is very important to me. So the question was, Can I still have kids even though I was on T? Yes, actually, a lot of trans men could have kids even if they were on T. There is a misconception that it makes you completely infertile. That is not true at all. There are trans men who have gotten pregnant on T. I do not recommend it, but it's possible. I do not want any more biological kids. I hated being pregnant. That doesn't matter, even if I wasn't trans. It has no relation to me being trans, even. A lot of the reasons I disliked pregnancy, I think it was uncomfortable, claustrophobic. It's like, it's housing an alien, you know what I mean? So I'm a part of the demographic that did not like pregnancy, and I would never do it again, even if I knew that I could with no complications. I would say hell to the no. Let's just go to the adoption agency and get denied. No, no, but I would get denied because I'm fat, I'm trans, I'm in a gay marriage, and badly tattooed, I'm mentally ill. They're gonna say, yeah, we can't work with you right now. So, but hey, you never know what the future holds. Maybe, I don't know. You never know. I don't know. But I get this question a lot. My husband and I don't know, like maybe in the far future would like want kids, but I don't know how it would happen because we would not be able to adopt, I'm sure, unless it was like a private adoption. And also, neither one of us are gonna have biological children. So, all right. So this is a question I get a lot. But I should answer it. I'm gonna try to put these in a Q&A section, like pinned again, not pinned, but like in a playlist. My son calls me mom. My son actually was very young when I transitioned. Like I said, he was 3, maybe 2.5. He was really young. He didn't even really remember me beforehand. The reason he started calling me mom, when he started talking at like 5-ish. And by the way, the reason I say that is he was nonverbal for a long time. My son is autistic. He started calling me mom because he saw everybody else call me mom. I mean, that is what everybody else referred to me as, his mom. So he just picked up on it. And I wouldn't make him change it because if it makes him comfortable, if that makes him happy, that's totally okay. Like I always say, I feel like in that type of situation, I'm the adult. I'm 31 years old. My son is only 8. I know that everybody's situation is different. You know what I mean? But I feel like even though there's situations where being referred to as mom, like it can be a little bit dysphoric, it can be a safety issue, but I'm an adult and I feel like it's my job to accommodate to him and not the opposite. Also, I would never ask him to call me dad because he had a dad. He passed away. He doesn't call my husband dad. He calls him Eli. I just feel like that was a role reserved for his father, and that's not a boundary I want to overstep, even though I wasn't a huge fan of him all the time. I still think it's just a respect issue. A lot of people will say to me, oh, but, people can have 2 dads, and like, yeah, that's cool, but that's not this situation. That's not it. We don't, want to take that title. In my opinion, it's a boundary I don't want to cross. So he calls me mom. Does Roman understand that I am trans? Yes, he does understand that I'm trans. I don't know if he understands in depth what trans means because I don't really burden my son with a lot of talk about being trans and stuff like that because he's just a kid, you know what I mean? But it's funny, it's ironic because the reason my son knew that I was transgender is not because everybody is expecting him to have a traumatic meltdown about it, but that's not how I found out. I actually found out because one day my son was watching YouTube and there were these kids on there and they were making fun of each other using the term tranny and the F-bomb and stuff. And he got really angry when he heard the word tranny and he exited out like he was pissed, I could tell. And that's when I knew that he knew that I am transgender. And that just goes to show you that when a parent is trans, that is not what negatively impacts the child. What negatively impacts children is when others have these preconceived false notions, that are really negative about trans people, and they project those onto society, and kids see it. I mean, if they have a loved one that's transgender, that's obviously going to affect. I always talk about how, with parenting, it only matters that you're safe, reliable, you're compassionate, empathetic, gender identity, orientation, anything like that, it does not matter. But that's how I found out. And actually recently, sometimes I will go through, instead of being do you know what transgender is? I don't want to ask that. So I'll go through and I'll say oh, there's grandma, what is she? And he'll say, a girl, or, he answers, so it's kind of lighthearted because he's supposed to learn stuff like that anyways, with his schooling and stuff, he's supposed to learn, how to identify people. And then when I went to myself recently and I said, what about me? What am I? And he said, transgender. So he does know that I'm transgender. And he learned that on his own. He didn't, he learned it on his own. And that's as far as I know right now, but to me, that's okay. So this question is, do I take medication for my bipolar? Abso-fucking-lutely. I am on lithium. I have been for a while. Thank God, too. Lithium literally, it has literally, I don't want to say saved my life, but probably saved me from being in like permanent psychosis, probably. It's so funny because when I was first recommended lithium, I was terrified. They wanted to put me on lithium treatment, and I didn't want to go on it at first because I heard horror stories about it. And I was just absolutely terrified. But I needed to do something because I kept continually getting manic. I was in a shit ton of debt from it. And antipsychotics would not work for me, so I needed to find a way to manage it. So finally I agreed. It literally, I can't even explain how much it has helped me. I have been on it now for probably about, 2 to 3 years, and it honestly is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. But yeah, I have bipolar 1, so for me, mania is the main issue. I don't really suffer from a lot of depression. But mania is something I've suffered with a lot, to the point where it got me in so much debt I had to hire a lawyer. It was going to take me 20 years to get out of debt from my biggest manic episode. So lithium really has saved me. I have not had a major manic episode since I've been on lithium. Knock on wood. I have to do my little ritual thing. But yeah, so I'm on lithium. Okay, so this question is, does Roman have a bedtime and does he take naps? Roman does not take naps, no way, because Roman is able to go off of extremely little sleep. It is shocking. It is shocking. He will sometimes get about 3 hours of sleep one night, 2 hours of sleep the next night, and be completely functional. It is wild. When I first, had my son, he's always had trouble sleeping, even as an infant. Obviously, a lot of infants, don't sleep through night anyways, but, even when he was an infant, toddler, it was rougher than the average baby, okay? And I remember back then thinking, thank God I'm bipolar. Thank God I'm bipolar, because I had such bad insomnia. I was not on lithium treatment at the time, and I was so thankful that I had bipolar, because I'd be able to stay awake with him. And I knew that if I was not bipolar, I would not have been able to do that. I mean, listen, sometimes mental illness comes in handy, and in that instance, it came in handy. So yeah, he still has trouble sleeping. We take measure after measure, the new sheets, his windows blacked out. It's we have white noise. God, what else? He's on melatonin. I know people have their opinions on that, but I trust physicians over TikTok professionals, so you know what I mean. But yeah, he definitely has trouble sleeping. You cannot make any noise, he will wake up. He wakes up at the drop of a hat. He has a bedtime at 7:30 or 8, but I mean, sometimes he don't get to bed till midnight. It's wild. So yeah, we have a lot of sleepless nights, and that's just a reality. I'm hoping as he gets older, he'll become a little bit more self-sufficient, so that maybe we won't always have to be awake on top of him all the time, you know what I mean? But yeah, that is reality right now. All right, so this question is, what is the first thing that attracted you to your husband? Okay, so the first thing that attracted me to my husband is he is extremely humble and quiet and private, and I love that. I just love that my husband is very, he's not simple, so I wouldn't say simple, but he enjoys the simple things. So I'm the type of person, I'm very impatient, I'm impulsive, I'm public. I like attention, I like kind of being in the spotlight and stuff, and my husband's the opposite, and that is so admirable to me. It is so admirable to me that, he just can live a life that's very private and very, even though he's with me, he still is pretty, behind the scenes, and he just really appreciates that simplicity, and that is the opposite of me. And it's so funny because with me, he admires that I can be inspiring, I'm extroverted, so I feel that's why he was drawn to me, and that's why I was drawn to him. It is kind of opposites attract. And we just, someone said once that Eli is the right side of your brain, and that is so true. Eli is the right side of my brain. I think, because the right side is the logical one, right? And the patient one, the logical, analytical one, that's him. And so that's what really drew me to him at first. So yeah. A lot of people have been reaching out to my family about the wish list. Really disappointed that we shut it down. I've decided I will reinstate it. However, there are some boundaries we're going to follow. I don't care if I sound ungrateful. And this is not to the commenter at all. This is just in general. But these are the boundaries that I feel like need to be stated. I have to talk fast because I only have 3 minutes. Okay, so first of all, any snarky remarks on, like, unboxings, like, are you even employed? If you've been following me for more than an hour, you know that I'm a poultry farmer, and I take offense to this because I've maintained employment since I was 19 years old. I respect that not everybody can maintain employment. That's not my place to judge, but work ethic is extremely important to me and my husband. It's something we work to instill in our child, and I will not tolerate people degrading me, acting like I do not have that, just because people want to bless my family. Also, there are ways, like with Amazon wishlist, to send stuff that are not on the wish list, and I just want to say that yes, we're grateful for that. We've gotten some awesome stuff that we love. However, there is always a risk if you're sending something that we didn't put on there that we might not like it. I mean, we have our own personal style, each and every one of us, and we are not obligated to wear things, display things, etc. If it's not something that we would use or wear or whatever otherwise, you know what I mean? Just because I'm an influencer doesn't mean my family can't have boundaries. If something is something that, like, we can't use or it's just not really our taste or whatever, we will donate it. Please, if you are not okay with that, do not send us anything. The reason I say that is we're not going to do returns, and the reason we won't do returns is just because we get so many packages. If I were to save everything that just wasn't our taste and, like, wait to hear from someone if they want to return, my house would look like a warehouse. And like I said, I'm grateful for everything, but boundaries. Not everything is going to be in an unboxing video. And the reason I say that is because before I was doing unboxing videos on every single thing and also videos on us using them. Even then, people talk shit about how ungrateful I was. But anyways, my page kind of turned into just an unboxing page at times, and I really don't want that. So while I will unbox some stuff, please don't send me stuff just to expect, like, shout outs and clout in unboxing videos. Please, only send stuff because you genuinely want to. I will not be guilt-tripped for not sharing people's GoFundMes, any type of, like, charitable thing, not donating. My family is very charitable, and we've shown that over the years with my presence on social media, but we choose what causes and who we donate to and who we support and who we shout out, and that's okay. We're allowed to do that. And lastly, I have a lot going on. Like, we're not only farmers, but also my son, like, has, like, minimum 6 to 7 appointments a week. It takes me a while to get back to DMs. Please be respectful of that. Healthy boundaries do not equate to ungratefulness. Hi, so yes, my son's lack of sleep is likely just due to him being autistic, or not his lack of sleep, but his ability to function on a severe lack of sleep. But also my son does have sleep apnea. He had to have a sleep study because he doesn't really sleep well. He had it when he was younger, and he does have sleep apnea. The physician did tell me at the sleep clinic they did not think that his sleep apnea was responsible for him, waking up early, waking up, during the night or whatever. But that could be a factor. I just want to be transparent in that, is that it's not just that, he has autism. He also has sleep apnea. When he was young, I actually shared a room with my son. He's still young now, but I shared a room with my son until he was probably it was till my husband moved in. So 5 or 6, 5. And the reason I did is because I was terrified with the sleep apnea, because when I asked for treatment options, they basically said there was really nothing they did for kids his age. They didn't want to medicate him, and as far as a mask goes, there was no way he was keeping that on. There was no way he's keeping, like, a nose thing on either. No way. Especially with, like, his sensory stuff, there is just no way. Like, I know somebody recommended in my last video, like, oh, put earplugs in his ears, and another person's like, spray something on his face, all this stuff, and it's like, my kid is highly sensitive to things, so, like, there's a reason we don't take heed to all these suggestions, because of course I've heard them before, you know what I mean? But yeah, so we really didn't get a lot of, or any treatment options. His is obstructive. Yeah, so I don't know. He's had his adenoids out. They still haven't taken his tonsils out. They don't think he needs that yet. I kind of wish they just did it at the same time while he was under anesthesia to avoid having to potentially go under again. But hey, whatever. I'm not a surgeon. I wouldn't know. But yeah, so it could be, partially his sleep apnea, but they claim that, the major reason why he has trouble sleeping is due to his autism. It's like it really is, not to us, but to him, kind of a superpower because, yeah, he can function off such little sleep. He's productive. He's alert. He's not groggy. Like I mean, it could be a good thing, but just, Oh, and I'm getting a lot of suggestions like, oh, seek out, like, going on this medication or that. No, I'm not doing that. I was put on medications like clonidine as a child, and, yeah, not good. It wasn't good for me at all. I would never seek out heavy medications unless there was no other option. That would be a last resort for me. No judgment, but this is my parenting, so. No, I would not feel comfortable with that, and I don't think Eli would either. And that's not to say that Eli is not a father figure to my son, because he absolutely is. And even towards, the last year of my son's father's life, he really kind of had to step in at times. When my son's father, relapsed and stuff, it was kind of rough, but I still feel like that's a term reserved for just his father. I would not want to cross that boundary. Even though he crossed many boundaries with me that I feel were inappropriate, I don't, in my heart, I just don't feel like that's right. I just, my transition, and then also my, you know, I don't know if decision is the right word. I guess so. I don't know. My destiny of falling in love with my husband, those are all parts of my life. And I don't think when you transition or when you move on, you should completely, disregard the feelings of, other people who you once, did have a bond with and did build something with. I don't think that's right. No matter what, regardless of what happens in my life, or my son's life, at one point, I had a child with somebody. He has a biological father, and I don't think that just because, things evolve on one person's, side, that means that, they have a right to change everything. In my opinion, with people's transitions, and I get it because, we, or even not even just transitions, even if people are in the closet, when you come out, either, trans or gay, whatever. Like, I'm in a gay marriage now, that's why I'm focusing on that as well. But I think sometimes people tend to forget, who was in their past, and sometimes I think that's because when you go so long putting on a facade for others and you get the chance to finally be authentic and selfish, it's like you run with it. And so I get it, but I don't think it's right always. So just because, my life changed, I transitioned, I met my husband, I ended up married to a man, I don't think that means that I have a right to all of a sudden take a title that was very important to somebody. It's just not the ethical thing to do, in my opinion. To each their own. That's my opinion. Hi, so you probably already know this. I'm just giving kind of a recap. My son has dysphagia, and all his drinks need to be thickened, or he could choke and aspirate, which can lead to pneumonia, and it has in the past. And so that's why in a lot of videos you see me thickening his drinks with a little packet. It says Simply Thick on it. This is a gel made of xanthan gum, and it just kind of thickens the liquid to provide him with more control over, his jaw muscles and, just, more control over swallowing. So if my son got a hold of a liquid that was unthickened and drank some of it, he could potentially choke, aspirate, and it could lead to pneumonia, and it has. The scariest part of that situation, he's had pneumonia twice, but the scariest part of the situation when it was probably from like a drink, to me was not him actually getting pneumonia, because he was able to get antibiotics and luckily he was fine. But the scariest part for me was at the time he was not verbal at all, and he still has some trouble communicating sometimes. And actually, I did not know anything was wrong until he had like a pretty bad fever. And the reason I didn't know is because not only was he not able to communicate to me like, "Hey, I don't feel good," but it's actually like, I think this is a thing, like I've been told this by physicians. I've never researched it, so maybe I shouldn't say that. But I've heard that people who are autistic sometimes have like a higher pain tolerance and can function while being in discomfort, which is like, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think a bad thing. I don't know. But he was obviously, I'm assuming, in immense discomfort, and he just functioned like normal and didn't even tell me, or not tell me, but like didn't even show it at all. That was the scariest part of that whole ordeal, was he wasn't able to tell me, and I didn't know till it could have potentially been a fatal situation. So that's why it's really scary. So yeah.